There's a million different ways to find properties. The courthouse steps. Man, if you want to go get your adrenaline rush, go to the courthouse step and watch an auction. It's like you see and feel on TV. The other way for me, 90% of my business comes from real estate agents like myself. They walk into the property, mom passed away, dad's moving into a retirement home, kids live all over the world. They don't want to mess with it. They call up a realtor. The realtor goes, "Oh, do you want strangers walking through your house?" Not really. Let's call Gene. He'll give you a fair price, all cash, be done, and give you the keys.
All right. Today we have an incredibly special guest joining us who is a true expert on real estate investing and specifically property flipping. More importantly, he is a very well-known and highly respected real estate professional in the DMV area. Everywhere I go, people have nothing but great things to say about him. So I'm very excited to welcome to the show, Gene Fisher.
Oh, wow. You're making me blush. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming in. So just to kind of get started out, talk a little bit about what the purpose of, this show is. It's focused towards, home buyers and home sellers. But, of course, we've got other professionals and things that are going to be watching, but we really focus it on, talking to first-time home buyers and maybe first-time investors, which I think is what is going to be really valuable for people on this show, is talking to first-time investors. So just to get started out, can you kind of tell us, introduction for everybody, a little bit about your story and how you got started in real estate and real estate investing?
Sure. It's kind of a crazy story. 2008, as most know, was a very bad year in real estate, mortgage industry. A lot of banks went under and things like that. I went the whole year in 2008 without making a penny. $0. Had 3 kids, a mortgage to pay, bills piling up. And honestly, in 2008, the end of it, my house was in foreclosure. Had a friend reach out to me and basically said, "Why don't you come into my office? Let's meet. And another doctor and I are going to give you $3 million and we're going to start flipping houses."
Oh,
so I was already in the real estate industry, obviously. And the rest is kind of history. I mean, there's some other things to be said about it, but went out and started looking at houses. And as you guys probably know, this is before the HGTV shows, before the flipping shows, before any of that. We went out and started looking for ugly houses. And in 2009, there was a lot of them. And it kind of just blew up from there. We split it 33% between the 3 of us. And then I built up enough where, shall I say, I flew the nest.
Okay.
And appreciate all their help, and then brought me to where I am today.
Excellent. So, yeah, I guess that was sort of what I was going to, get into here, is what does the team look like and the partners. So starting out, you had capital partners, I guess you'd call it, and then you were boots on the ground actually going out and sourcing the deals?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah,
awesome.
They were more of a silent investor.
Okay.
They didn't want to know anything about it. They just want to know when it closed, how much money do we make? Like most investors, right?
So aside from, sort of the challenges that you had in 2008, you obviously had a great reputation where these guys trusted you and believed that you were, somebody that they would be confident partnering with.
Sure. I mean, like you're always told, you're only as good as your word. So
Yeah.
I always would keep my word and be honest with them up front, and they trusted me and I trusted them, and we made a great partnership out of it.
So just for people who are, maybe interested in getting started out and want to know, property flipping, it's really exciting. I think people, they see the shows on HGTV and, maybe there's some misconceptions about, how easy it is or maybe how difficult it might be. So can you kind of just give us an overview of what are sort of the steps to a successful flip?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the shows. I don't watch them.
Okay.
They're not as sexy as what you think they are in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I've had pipes bust when I'm done with the flip in the middle of winter and flood the whole house, and the house is going to go on the market the next week. They don't show you those types of things, right? So whatever they do, new investors don't think that that's the pie in the sky and that's where it all looks like, because it's not. If you want to start into, the first thing you should do, honestly, is attend my next flipping class.
Okay.
I do 4 a year.
Wow.
And it's normally brings in first-time home buyers, first-time investors, and people like that who want to get into it, but they just don't know where to start.
Okay.
So it's a 2-night class, 6 to 9, April 9th and 10th. where we just sit down. I host it, and I sold out to the first 30 people, and then I cap it.
Okay.
So that's also the best thing, because I think a lot of people don't flip because why? They don't have the money. So when you take my class, I guarantee if you find the house that I fund the property. So that's a huge thing for them. I will back them up with a $300,000, $400,000 purchase price. I'll fund that for them once they take the class. Because by the end of my class, I know and confident that you're going to be able to flip a house.
That's pretty amazing. So I guess one of the things that also people hear about is how do you get started in investing with no money down? And I guess one of the ways would be to attend, your class and, have you partner with them. But just, I guess, before the flipping, we get into, more details on the flipping. Can you touch on that, on what does that mean when people say how you can get started in real estate investing with no money down?
Right. So what it really means is, well, first of all, let's answer your question about where to find the property. There's a million different ways to find properties. The courthouse steps. Man, if you want to go get your adrenaline rush, go to the courthouse step and watch an auction. It's like you see and feel on TV. The other way for me, 90% of my business comes from real estate agents like myself. They walk into the property, mom passed away, dad's moving into a retirement home, kids live all over the world. They don't want to mess with it. They call up a realtor. The realtor goes, "Oh, do you want strangers walking through your house?" Not really. Let's call Gene. He'll give you a fair price, all cash, be done, and give you the keys. We're working on one in Springfield right now. The video's up that people would love to watch. Same thing. It's just old stuff. I got to gut it, take it all out in dumpsters. There's probably be 6 dumpsters for this house.
Wow.
But the kids love that. When I call them kids, 50, 60-year-old people, they love that because it's less stress for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that is speaking to how important in all of this, a lot of people may not realize, is having the network and, putting yourself out there. And that's sort of my understanding is a lot of it on finding these deals is, marketing and networking and getting in, connected with the right people to let them know, like, hey, I'm a cash buyer. If you've got something that, looks like a good deal, give me a call and, maybe we can work the numbers out.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So is it mainly other real estate agents that you would say are, that's where you're sourcing deals from? Are there any other? Are you doing, are you putting signs in the median, WeBuyAnyHouse.com kind of thing? Or
I don't. And there's a lot of bad names for those types of people, honestly. Most of those people that have the signs out there don't have the cash.
Gotcha.
What they're trying to do is wholesale it, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to put it under contract for $300,000. Go find somebody that'll buy it for $350,000, and maybe the house is worth $600,000, and they're taking their $50,000. So someone like me has to come to the table with the cash, and if they can't find the right person, then that poor homeowner is out of luck because this person's not going to produce and sign at closing.
So I'm familiar with what wholesaling is. I'm in the mortgage business. I'm not doing wholesale deals, but I think there are a lot of people out there who talk about, and it is wholesaling, where people say, hey, you can make money in real estate and you don't have to invest, you don't have to have any cash.
Right.
And that's what they're referring to is wholesaling. So I want to talk a lot about, everything that you've going on with these flips, but just to kind of pull the curtain back for, the viewers, can you go a little bit more into like what is wholesaling? I mean, it sounds, I think to the average person, it almost sounds like it's illegal,
right?
But we know that it's not. Can you kind of explain, do an overview on just like the basics of what is wholesaling?
Sure. So it'd be an individual that has seen a house or knows someone, and they put it under contract. That's the first thing that I teach in my class. When you find a good deal, and these people, like you're like I tell everyone, you're buying a situation here, right? Mom and dad going to nursing home. Someone's going to jail. We can get into that later, things like that. They need cash and they need it quickly. So if you can work out a deal that works for the seller and you, being the wholesaler, you need to put it under contract first.
Right.
Make sure it's an assignable contract, meaning now I can take it from Gene Fisher, the wholesaler, to Peter over here and sell it to him for a little bit more of a spread. one of my favorite terms in this industry is how much meat is on the bone, right? So if there's enough meat on the bone where I can make a little bit by selling paper, right? That's what wholesaling is. I'm just selling a contract over to the end user, the flipper. Then that's basically what wholesaling is. You're taking the contract that you have with the seller, taking it to the end user, the buyer, and you're making that spread. A wholesale can go anywhere from $5,000 that you make to I've seen ones at $150,000.
Wow.
But again, that was one I did. I bought it for $600, sold it for $750. Okay, the guy who bought it for $750 sold it for $1.2 million. But he did all the work.
It's a lot of meat on that bone.
A lot of meat on that bone. But again, it was a situation that it just worked for everybody.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it does, when you look at wholesaling, it's something that really anybody could do. I mean, there's a little bit of, you don't have to be licensed, as I understand, as a real estate agent. So it is interesting. And I guess, are you seeing people use that as sort of a start to build capital to then get into, funding flips or maybe buy and hold, investment properties?
I do. But what the thing is, if you're going to wholesale out there, I can only stress so much that make sure you have the money lined up somehow, somewhere.
Okay.
Because the worst part is that poor seller who really was banking on that money at the day of closing, and that wholesaler maybe can get out of the contract for many reasons. And there's poor Granny that now it's not getting her $400,000 in cash.
Yeah.
And she was really looking forward to it. So if you're going to wholesale out there, please make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed and you got things covered.
Right, which I'm sure means having a great network of people that you can go to, like yourself, who will purchase and be the end buyer on that deal. So, kind of getting more into, I want to kind of pick your brain on the whole process, because you were saying you've got a team, you've got stagers, photographers, all of these things. So you're finding the deal. What is your role in all of this? Because you've got to find the deal. You've got to, I guess I'll let you say, what are all of the roles involved, and then how much of that are you involved in versus maybe you're outsourcing it or you've hired a team?
The people watching this that are on my team are going to laugh.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be straight shooter and be honest with you. I purchased the house when I go to settlement, and then I drop the keys to my team.
Wow.
I'm very little involved anymore, which is a blessing, because I'm on blood pressure medicine because it is stressful. But I have a full-time assistant to make sure the power, the water, the electric, everything's on. Okay. Then I have the contractors go out, and I usually use 2 or 3 contractors, but don't tell them this. They bid against each other because they're not employees of mine, right? So they give me the best deal, whoever's going to give me the best deal of my contractors, and then they start to work. Then I have another assistant that writes the checks to them, and we just pay them and just keep on turning. I have the designer go in. She goes from A to Z until we put the sign in the yard, and then I market it for sale. So I am not a designer by any means. I'm a numbers guy, right?
Okay.
So I let them take over, and I trust that what they're going to do is going to make the house look amazing. Last year, honestly, was my best year ever. So I think I built a pretty good team, and I rely heavily on them.
Well, shout out to your team. And, congratulations on them, because they certainly, they make you look great.
Oh, they sure do.
Now, I guess maybe starting out with those partners, did you always run the business this way with that team? Or was there a point where you were, maybe the reason you're on blood pressure medication now is because you were just running around managing all of this on your own?
Yes. I mean, again, the people that have seen my past work know that I had the old Sanford & Son trailer. I had a truck, I had a trailer, I had 8 toilets, I had the works, and I was just delivering the materials time and time again to all of my contractors, because I'd rather have my contractor in there working instead of running the Home Depot and Lowe's or Floor & Decor or what have you. Floor & Decor, shout out to them, they're great. That's what I use for all my tile. I would go and put all the tile in the back of my truck and all the tile in my trailer and deliver it. Well, certain time in your life when you reach 50 years old, you just can't do it anymore.
Right.
I'd like to stay active and things like that, but time's money, and I just needed to push that off.
So you say you're a numbers guy. I was looking here, if you have business savvy, which I guess, somebody who's a numbers person, you absolutely do. But you don't necessarily have the construction knowledge. what should you be looking for in a general contractor? Just because if you don't know and somebody's quoting you, X amount for a particular job, and you really have no idea how much it would cost, how do you find a good general contractor to make sure you're not getting ripped off or getting hosed on these bids?
Right. No, that's a great question. And to be completely honest with you, I can't swing a hammer.
Okay.
I got my first crew years ago from just friends of friends going, oh, he's good.
Okay.
Right. Then several years later, I was introduced to 6 houses that I needed to buy at one time. Came up with the money through my doctors, right? This is actually a really good story. All 6 were so bad. I wholesaled all of them. It was too much for me to do at the time.
Okay.
Had a lot of other stuff going on in my life. Wholesaled them all. Then I went and buy dumpsters out in the front yard, knocked on the door, met 3 contractors, watched their work the whole time. And today, 2 of those 3 are my full-time guys.
Oh, that's a great story.
So again, dumpsters in the front yard of a house that you think is horrible in your neighborhood and you've been driving by, give it a couple days, knock on the door and introduce yourself.
This is what it's like to be one of the best. Moving to the beat, feel the song in my chest. Yeah, we turning up, never settling for less.
All right, guys, so this house, 1960s, and yes, it is still 1960s inside, and oh my God, we need Jesus. We need Mary. We need St. Joseph. We need all you guys for this house. I know what you're thinking. Gene, what the hell are you gonna do with this house? There's so much to do. I sat there and I thought and I put my thinking cap on and I came to a conclusion. We're going to blow this wall out, redo the whole kitchen, and when we're finished, this kitchen is going to blow your mind.
Maybe I can download them, but I want to show, all the viewers just how amazing these transformations are on these properties. You're not just buying something that needs some updates and, going in and doing new carpet and painting the walls. These properties are seriously distressed from what I see. Would you describe them that way as well?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You need to be a cash buyer. No banks loaning on these properties. It needs.
Okay.
I think the least amount I've ever put in a house was $40,000. The most was $250,000. So it's a lot.
So yeah, I guess on the number side of it, I always say, okay, you make the money on the buy. The market's only going to, when you go to sell the place, the market price is what it is. So it's really, you have to go in there and up front, that's where your meat comes on the bone, is on the buy side. So is there like a formula that you say, we've got to have this much profit margin, in it for it to just make economic sense for you?
There is, and I teach that in the class, but
Okay.
but the beef of it is, and we can throw numbers out right now. If I'm buying a house for $700,000, I better be able to resell it for $1 million or more.
Okay.
So quick math, 70%
Gotcha.
of what are, and we call this in our world ARV,
Okay.
which would be after repair value.
Gotcha.
So if I'm buying a house for $700,000, I better be able to sell it for $1 million. Now, obviously, those numbers kind of tweak. If you're buying a house for $200,000, the percentages are going to be less. So you need to put more. You need to put more meat on the bone.
Yeah.
Right.
So that purchase price, that's not including rehab costs. That's just the straight up acquisition cost. Okay.
Correct.
Awesome. So seeing some of these, like when I was first introduced to you, it was actually because you're at that property in Andrew's neighborhood, and there's a lot of stories about it and everything. Like,
Oh yeah.
you've got to have just a ton of stories about some wild things that you
my God.
found, inside of these properties that I think everybody'd like to hear.
Well, I've been told I should write a book. It sounds exhausting to write a whole book. So I'll just tell stories when people are hanging out with me. But yeah, Andrew's neighborhood in Reston. We'll start with that one. That was a wholesale to me. It was another realtor called me up and said, "Hey, will you buy this for X dollars?" I went into it and saw prison records, things of that nature. So we dug a little bit more, and let's put it like this: there's a bunch of addicts in the world. Most of you hear about is alcohol and drugs. This one, he had a lot of video cassettes that could fill up a Blockbuster house back in the day.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I
Yikes.
also learned what upskirting was from this house.
Oh
So,
man. Okay. All right. Well, that paints the picture
You
without
got-
getting too, without getting into too much detail. I think that paints the picture of what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, that was disturbing, shall we
Okay.
say. So again, got to stay focused. We got the dumpster out front. trash, burn it, let's go.
Okay.
Let's get to rehabbing.
Burn it. That was a good call. Yeah, that doesn't need to be, it could go in the dumpster and not get burned, and then somebody, is just traumatized stumbling across it. So yeah, definitely go in the burn pile.
Yeah.
And so on that one, I mean, I believe what I saw was pretty amazing from, just like the wood paneling and, it's like a hoarder house with all this junk and everything. And then I guess you would credit your design team on just the, what the work that they go in and do.
Oh my God, she killed it. I mean, and that's the thing. When you're designing a house in Woodbridge, it's going to be a little different than designing in Reston or in Haymarket. So you have to know your clientele. Did it scare the... Oh, sorry. Can I cuss? No.
Yeah, go ahead. I think this is...
Did it scare the shit out of me
Yeah.
with this design of black cabinets and white uppers and black bottoms and all this craziness? Ooh, wasn't my cup of tea. But everyone, and again, I don't know design, but everybody in that neighborhood and the buyers, they freaking loved it.
Yeah.
So I trust them and I let them roll with it. And it just, at the end of it, when I see it finally done, I'm like,
yeah. And then I see, it's always fun when you go in and you're, hey, I'm auctioning off, this old piano or something. I get a kick out of it. Are you really selling stuff and auctioning it off, or is it, do you have a store? Maybe a storefront of like a resale.
That's a
you
great
could do
idea.
that. Yeah, you could have a secondhand store with all the things that you get out of these properties.
So that's a great question. I do not. Personally, I will tell you this, and my youngest son, he's 24 years old. He gets first crack out of it, right?
Okay.
So he went and he picked up the Sega system, the Nintendo system that I just had, and that's how he can make a little bit of money and finish up his college, education. That's fine. For me, when the old adage is time is money,
Yeah.
right? It couldn't be more true when flipping a house, because when you're borrowing money, I know we're getting into this, but you're borrowing money at 12, 14, 16%. It's costing me $200-300 a day. So for me to sit there and pick through, there's a show out there, someone told me about House Picker or Pick or something. I don't have time. I really don't. I have to get these dumpsters full and get it out. Now, being a quasi-religious guy, I have issues thrown away, like crucifix, crosses, statues of, Mary and Joseph. That's not happening. I try to donate those to church.
Okay.
But if it's just 1930 newspaper, it's got to go. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's probably worth money or something, but I can't. I would just get drowned in this. So it's just,
Well, it makes for a fun video
Oh, it does.
to show all of that stuff, and it's like, look at this place. It's 2023, and this place has some original 1940s or whatever appliances and stuff, and they're still working. So it's fun to watch.
The cuckoo
for
clock
sure.
was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I had so much fun with that cuckoo clock. I sat there for 5 minutes just going cuckoo with it. So it was great.
So I know you said that on your projects they are quite a bit more extensive, so it's got to be cash. But in general, how would people go about financing on the flips? I mean, is it just finding partners, or I'll let you kind of answer that. How do you go about financing?
So, 2 different ways. Once you take my class, you can do your first couple of flips, but I need you, the buyer, to fund the rehab cost.
Okay.
So it could be anywhere. Again, I don't know how much this house would need, but I hold everyone's hand. Like once you take my class, I don't let, okay, goodbye. I'll hold your hand and nurture you through your first couple. That's just my nature. I'm not going to just let you drown out there. Once you do a couple and I see that you know what you're doing and they turned out good for you, then I also do loan the rehab money as well. So you can buy it for $400,000. I've done this to a handful of people. $400,000 and needs $100,000 worth of fix up, and you only have 30. Then I'll front the 70. Wow. We're going to do it together, and we'll get through it. It's not going to be a problem. But your first couple, I want you to have the skin in the game and to feel the burn, shall we say? Because it's not easy, guys. Like, it is hard work. I know what you see on videos. It's here's another $100,000 for Gene. No, it's not that. It's a lot of work that goes behind everything.
It would seem like that's an incredible opportunity, because it's not just that they're getting the capital, but they also have you to rely on to share with them your experience and guide them on these deals. And so I would say you can go to the bank and you're paying 16-18% or whatever, and you get none of that. Right. You get, hey, go figure it out, and F you pay me kind of thing.
Yeah. Or the guys who are putting it all on their credit card.
Oh,
what's
wow.
credit card rates right now? 20, 24, 20, why? Why would you do that? That's just crazy. It's stressful. So
Well, I think that in pretty much any business, the number one thing that I would always give advice to people on is, find somebody who's where you want to be, follow what they're doing, model whatever it is. If you see someone who's, out there flipping properties and has been doing it and they're, seems successful and they're, completing these projects without a bunch of challenges, like go learn from them. So it's pretty cool that you offer that mentorship program to people. And
at the end of the day, you can't take it with you, and you're only going to be on this life for a short period of time.
Exactly.
And so when all these people can look back and like, Gene, he really helped me in my life. To me, that's what it's all about.
So that sort of leads me to what are some of the maybe tough lessons that you've had to learn that to this day, like still sort of stick with you, that you apply in your business, share as many as you'd like. Cause I think some of us have more, certainly more than one, in the, real estate investing game.
Right. I think one of the biggest things is don't be afraid. I get it. It's nerve wracking. And oh my God, I'm going to buy a house, and that's stressful enough. Imagine people when you bought your first house, everyone's so nervous about it. Well, the number one thing that a wealthy man told me years ago, when I was 24, I said, I'm afraid to buy a house because I don't think it's the right time. I think the market's at the top. Mm-hmm. He said the best time to buy a house was yesterday. And to me, that just stuck with me forever because right around 24, 25, I was working for a company called MCI WorldCom. You probably heard of them.
Yeah, definitely.
I had 100,000 shares.
Wow.
At $20, $30 a share. Now do you know what it's worth? Zero. They folded up. They went out of business. I lost it all. Thing about real estate is there is no zero. A house is always going to be there. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get it. That's a whole nother podcast, right? But for me, yes, I have a little bit of money in the stock market, but yes, I have a portfolio of 20 houses with residual income. And I think that's for me where I wanted to be. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would like to be there too. And I can help them with that.
And I think that's great because right now you look at mainstream media headlines and you hear people are, talking about real estate market crash. And you're out there buying. You're putting in, you're putting up a ton of your own money to invest in these properties and in these projects. So what would you say to someone who, right now is saying it's like you were, hey, it's not a good time, that we're at the peak, the market's going to crash. What advice would you give to them?
Well, again, we're going all back to the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're going into a property, first of all, you want to make sure you're going to get a good deal on it, right? I'm not paying, if the house is on the market for $600,000 and it's all fixed up, ready to go, that house isn't for me, right? Personally. I want to make sure that I'm getting a good deal on the house, for one. Then for two, when I go to the split of the road, do I flip it or do I keep it? Well, what's my new payment going to be with the new loan? Mm-hmm. And yes, the last 6 months with rates being at 8, 9%, maybe even 11, I was quoted for an investor rate, it's going to be a hard one to keep because my payment would have been $4,000 and the rent's only going to be $2,500 or $3,000. So am I up to losing $1,000 a month? Not really. Mm-hmm. So I'd flip it then and make the 50, hundreds, whatever it is on the house that I'm flipping. So the last 8 months, I've been flipping more than buying and holding.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who are on the sidelines right now and they're just sort of providing their commentary, which isn't necessarily helpful. These people are not in the arena, so to speak, right. Out there, doing any transactions. Or, they're not investing. They're just saying, hey, the market's going to crash and, everybody's got, the chicken little, the sky's falling, right. kind of mindset at some point. And, a broken clock is right twice a day. So, maybe at some point they'll be, validated with their opinions. But what I always look at is, hey, if you think the market's going to crash or, you think you're going to wait for the market to crash, you should be out there submitting your offers and looking to buy deals.
Absolutely.
At a price that the numbers are going to work for you.
Sure.
Get out there and crash the market yourself, right?
Right. The thing about today's market compared to 2008 is we were doing loans that were absolutely ridiculous back then. Mm-hmm. There was an option arm, for people that might know what that is. You had 4 payment options. And one was absolutely horrendous because you're doing negative AM, so your loan balance was going up every month because you're paying the minimum, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if not, you can look it up. But so what was happening then was horrendous, and we're coming to a crash back then. Now people have more skin in the game. There's not the 100% financing loans out there. You have to put 5, 10, 15% down, and the interest rates are so great still. I'm positive. I'm buying and flipping and continuing.
Well, what's interesting is as people talk about, the market crash, they're not seeing the mortgage data, which is people have very low interest rates. A majority, of people, like 60% of people with mortgages, their rates are below 4%.
Right.
And 60% of those people also have I think 40% loan to value. And then there's a ton of people who just own properties free and clear. So the way I look at it, you see the prices, the price tags that are on these houses, but what's not shown there is how much equity those people have in the property, which means there's serious opportunity for someone who's looking for a deal to go in there and take one.
Absolutely.
And negotiate that seller down. Hey, this house is not the most desirable. It needs some work. So because of how much equity people have, it's a great opportunities for buyers and investors to go in and start snatching these deals up, regardless of the interest rates, which people have no control of.
You don't.
Of those rates. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, would you just overall, what would you say to those people who are saying, "Oh, I'm going to wait, and the market's going to crash"? Are you just insane out there buying and putting all this money into these deals?
Again, we go back to just don't be afraid.
Okay.
I mean, you got to take a chance in life, right? I mean, when I teach my class, and the more and more people that I meet throughout the day, I've met so many people that say to me, Gene, I wish I wouldn't have sold my house back in blah, 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 blah. I can count on one hand how many people said to me, I'm so glad I sold that property. So think about that. Millions of people always kick themselves. I wish I wouldn't have sold. I wish I wouldn't have sold. But very few people are going to say, glad I sold that house 10 years ago.
Right.
Not happening.
Right. And I guess on the flip side, so many people saying, hey, I wish I would have bought.
Oh, yeah.
How many of those people are there out there that say, I wish I would have bought,
Can you imagine
5 years ago?
3, 4 years? I was going to
Yeah.
say 3, 4 years ago, and people were like, well, it seems like the market's at the top right now. And now they're looking back going, oh, my God.
Yeah. So I think this has been great. I do want to hear more about your just details. Is that class that you have coming up in mid-April, is that completely booked? Is there a waiting list?
We actually just put it out there yesterday.
Okay.
So
wow.
we have more information on the link we can provide below.
Okay.
And I'd love for people to sign up. It's going to be in One Loudon, so right down the street. And I think it's great. I think it's a great class.
Gene, it's been a real pleasure, talking to you. And I think this has been really educational for people who are, first-time investors who are interested in this subject. But I know you've got a lot of entertaining, stories that you can share. So, because you've had so much experience, so give us your craziest, experiences on, things that you've seen on some flips.
Well, let's see. 1, 2. No, I'll cut it short. I guess the two that kind of pop in my brain here are the Cat Lady of Herndon. You can Google that because I'm not going to get into details, but I show up when I buy the house to find 40 cats, and they weren't doing well.
Okay.
They went to heaven.
40
cats. Yeah.
Ouch. Okay.
So that was an interesting one. So that was a complete gut job all the way down to the subfloor because
I would hope so.
of the smell, right? So that one was not a fun one. And then one recently was, I think we got up to 350 tequila bottles, empty. And that was entertaining as well because of the fact that I made a game out of how many tequila bottles are going to be in here. Whoever guesses the closest wins a gift card. So I try to do that on all my videos, just something random to keep it entertaining for everyone. So those are the two top of the mind.
So you've got a lot to look forward to. It's not just something that, is going to, introduce you to a great network of people and, be a profitable venture, but you're going to have fun, exciting, and crazy stories that you get to walk away with, that are always fun to share with, friends and people that you meet. So, this has been a true pleasure, having you on, and I appreciate you, really sharing so much of the insight that you have here. And again, anybody who is, looking to get started, we're going to leave all the contact information for, people to get a hold of you and get enrolled in the class. So
That sounds great.
thank you very much, Gene.
The pleasure's all mine.
All right.
Take care.